How's it going, everyone? Nick from Comic Culture here. It is time for Nick at Night, my weekly non-spoiler comic book review show. I just got done reading all my books. Let's get into them next. All right, let's get into it. I'm gonna go ahead and put my grading bar down now. I'm gonna go over each and every book, and as I do, I'm gonna put the cover for that book on this grading bar so you can see how the books stack up against each other that week. So let's go into Marvel first. We're gonna start with Daredevil issue number 4. This isn't Luke Cage number 4. This is Daredevil with that cool J. Scott Campbell variant cover on here. There it is on the back, Daredevil number 4. So Chip Zdarsky is doing a really good job of bringing this story forward a lot. He's actually been hanging out in Hell's Kitchen. Matt Murdock's been hanging out in Hell's Kitchen for quite a while now, and it was getting kind of boring. We had this weird issue where like this like fake prophecy guy kind of came back into Matt's life, into Daredevil's life. That was quickly let go, and then we're jumping back into our issue now with Elektra and Stick and building up the fist. We're going after the hand right now. So this is actually the issue I was really looking forward to, where they actually get down to business and start building up their base and trying to figure out how they're going to attack the hand. We have Stick in this issue as well, and he provides that little level of comedy and humor that you need to kind of level out the drama and the seriousness that Daredevil has from time to time. So his addition to the book was very much needed and appreciative. And he also develops the plot forward a little bit. He goes over what the hand's purpose is, or what their objective is, but then he also knows what the objective of the fist is, and he goes over some of the prophecies there and what it means for Daredevil and Elektra to be tackling this as a couple. So we do dive into that a little bit, and the outcome of that is something really interesting, and I can't wait for them to develop that even more. So yeah, really looking forward to seeing that. Art-wise, we got some really cool art styles in here. I'm gonna go ahead and show you something in here for the art so you get an idea of what you're looking at here. This is just some panels of what you can expect to see inside the book. Very, very cool. I like all the serious tones. I like all the colors. I like all the line work. It works really well. And even some of the action scenes that they have in here, which is a little bit heavy towards the back end, thankfully, you can really kind of follow the patterns or follow the fights. And so that is really, really nice, because some artists can't really draw fights that well. It's like blurry or whatever. This artist has no problem with that, and it's awesome. So yeah, Daredevil's really picking it up now. We're getting to the point where I was expecting us to be probably around like issue 2, maybe 3. We're in issue number 4, so we're not that far off. Really, really cool run. You don't need to read Devil's Reign going into it. Of course, it would help, but just jump onto this one. We're issue number 4. If you haven't yet, check it out. All right, we have a couple Star Wars books. We're gonna get into Star Wars Visions number 1 from Taqi, I think it's how you pronounce it. Sorry if I butchered that name, but Takashi's on the story and the art. I didn't know anything about Visions going in. I know there was a Disney Plus show. I actually watched the first episode. It's only like 15 minutes, and it looks like it follows the character that's in this book. So if you're not familiar with that character at all, you can watch that first episode again. It's only like 15 minutes. They don't go into a whole lot. It's basically, he's stopping off in some kind of a town on his way to an adventure, and then these different Siths or rebels or whatever, they attack the town, and he helps defend the town against the Sith Lord and whatnot. So yeah, it's pretty interesting little, 15 minutes. It's not the same story that we get in here. This is a very much different story, but it follows the same guy and his droid. They're actually on a different mission, and they come across this like mysterious, almost like a drunken master / Jedi kind of a situation. And he kind of talks about his plans, and there's some troubles, and they should team up. And our main character here is thinking there's going to be a double cross at some point. Doesn't exactly play out that way, but it was, a fairly interesting story. We don't know too much about our characters. Art style is incredible. I love that. There's a lot of conversation, a lot of tension in this issue, and the drawing, the art style is just so crazy. It's so nice. I'm just not used to this kind of art style. I don't watch a whole lot of anime or anything like that, so when I see something like this, it's really refreshing for me. I'm not sure if this kind of art style has a name to it. You know what I mean? I don't know if anime is the appropriate name or if it's just too generic for what this art style is, but it is pretty cool. Mostly black and white, accentuated by some color from time to time. When they do that, I don't want to spoil those pages, but it is pretty awesome the way they use that. So Visions, interesting story. We don't really know a lot. Not a whole lot happens. I think it's heading in an interesting direction. We need a couple more issues to kind of flesh that out And then if you go on Disney Plus, you can check out episode 1. It's about 15 minutes long. I think it's the only one starring this character, but I'm only about three episodes in, and I haven't seen that character yet again. So yeah, check out Visions episode 1 and then read this book. Let me know what you thought. The other Star Wars book that came out this week was our volume 2 of High Republic. Cool cover on there. I'm picking these ones up because I didn't get very far in the volume 1 of High Republic, and I kind of regret it just because I want to know what the hell's going on in the whole universe. So I didn't do that. We have Kevin Scott on the writing on here and a Rio on the art. I will say that the art style is pretty cool. I feel like the story needs a little bit more to develop right now. We have this mysterious guy coming in. He's kind of been sent on this mission to this planet that's supposedly pretty kept up, pretty well put together. Of course, there's some drama on the planet, whatnot, and he's trying to uncover this mission. He meets up with a Padawan, and they're trying to stay out of trouble essentially. But somebody around here is stealing these ancient artifacts, and they're kind of on the case right now. There's some politics going on with some council that's here on the planet as well. Didn't quite follow that very well. It was kind of like abruptly just kind of jammed in towards the end of the story. And I didn't really have any kind of like context or weight to that whole conversation. I didn't really know what I was supposed to get out of it besides, hey, this planet's not really all as great as, they say it is. Again, art style wise, it's pretty fun. I'll show you a little clip of what that looks like in here. It's nothing spectacular, unfortunately. We get really spoiled with some amazing art from time to time, and then you get something like this. And I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying that, like, I don't know, the more comics you read, the more you get introduced to different art styles, and so you kind of hone into what you like the most. And this is not in the direction that I particularly like, but I'm not saying it's bad at all. I'm sure a lot of you like that art style, so no offense whatsoever there. But Star Wars High Republic Volume 2, issue number 1, it didn't really blow me away at all. It's just kind of like a run-of-the-mill Star Wars story so far, with just some new characters and things like that. We have a mystery we're trying to solve. There's some other drama involved as well. I don't know. We're going to keep picking up a couple issues and see where it goes. All these are going to be chock full of first appearances and things like that. So if you're into that kind of thing, you might just want to pick it up, throw it in a bag, throw it in your box, and be done with it. If the story turns out to be something really cool, hopefully enough reviews will go out and that message will go out and people will pick them up and enjoy the stories as well. So let me know if you read it down below. And the last Marvel book we read this week was Judgment Day. We have Immortal X-Men issue number 7. And I keep forgetting that Immortal X-Men is basically this opportunity for different members of the Quiet Council for us to hear their like inner thoughts and to see how their game plans are working. We had like a Mr. Sinister issue. We had a Destiny issue. We had a Sebastian Shaw issue. I'm trying to remember some of the other ones. I think we had like a Cyclops one, perhaps. I don't remember. Maybe even a Hope one. I don't know. But right here, we're actually going with Kurt. We're going with Nightcrawler on this one. And so it's interesting because I'm not reading all the different Judgment Day tie-ins or anything like that. I'm reading the main X-Men run and Immortal. And some of the dialogue in here is a little bit confusing because you read how the other stories are going and how far they are in the battle with the Eternals and the Celestial and things like that. And then you hop into here and they're talking about that battle and they're like, well, that's over with. And you're like, wait, is it over with? Because according to the last book I read, they're right in the middle of everything. And like all these weird surprises with the resurrections are happening. And they had this new game plan. And like, then they talk about in here and oh, it's over. And then as you read the book a little bit more, it's not over. It's nowhere near over. They're like still right in the middle of this like ultimate judgment. And so on one hand, it's hard to balance all these different titles, right? If you're the editor or anything like that and the writer's trying to make sure all these different titles piece together seamlessly, I bet that's really hard. And it is fun to get these little character spotlight issues like in Immortal X-Men, just so you can understand from one character's perspective how things are going and what's going on and what their next step is going to be. So that is fun, but there's going to be a little inconsistencies in an event like this that has so many different tie-ins and so many different characters involved. That could be forgiven, I think. But, like I said, this one's involving Nightcrawler specifically, so we get his perspective, and that perspective is pretty interesting. He's got his own little goals here, and some of the scenes towards the end of the book are actually scenes that took place many issues ago, pre this event right now, and dealing with Moira and Nimrod and things like that. So that was actually a cool little flashback to like Hoxpox, even Immortal, or Inferno. So it was good to be in that area again, in that realm, or in that time period rather, yet again. And so we have an unlikely alliance towards the end of this. We're still trying to figure out what we're going to do with the Celestial and with the Eternals, but Judgment Day, Immortal X-Men number 7, cool character spotlight. So if you're enjoying the run overall for Judgment Day. Immortal's going to give you that character-by-character spotlight, a little behind the scenes of what that character's thinking, and that's been pretty fun from time to time. So once you understand that that's the actual theme of the book, it's pretty cool because it just gives you different ideas and different perceptions of the whole event in general. So not too bad of a book. I think it's always like middle in that area every time it comes out. So yeah, let me know if you're reading this and what you thought of it down below. So that was it with Marvel. We're going to jump over into some DC books first. Of course, we just got nothing but Batman this week. We're going to start with Batman and Robin issue number 2 from Mark Waid. And we have Ashar on the art, if I'm not mistaken, and we have Jordi Belair on here as well. So it's a very cool event/universe that Mark Waid's been putting together. He started with World's Finest, which was a great run until that, I think it was the last issue, the whole Carnival time travel issue, that was garbage. But picking it back up from here, it is pretty good. You do not need to read World's Finest to jump into Batman and Robin. It does help because the main bad guy in here is the main bad guy in World's Finest is the guy that's orchestrating all the stuff that's happening in here. They do give you some dialogue to kind of catch you up to what happened in the past, especially in this issue. So, that will help if you didn't read World's Finest. But I highly recommend reading World's Finest just because it's a great book. And the art was killer in that book. So check that one out for sure. But basically, we have Robin being possessed right now. He's attacking Batman. We have all these magic users, like the Dark Justice League, pretty much taken out of the picture right now. So we have all these evil magic users all kind of teaming up right now, and they're all reporting up to this one demon lord that we were introduced to in World's Finest. So we have Batman and Alfred on the case right now, trying to interact with different magic users and just kind of getting nowhere at the moment. And so it's pretty disturbing, some of the stuff that happens in here. But we do learn a few things in here. We learn how Robin got possessed and who's actually in charge of all that. And yeah, it is pretty cool, man. It is pretty cool. I'll show you a little bit of what the art style looks like. It is kind of dark. The pages have like this newspaper quality to them, so that's really nice. I don't like really thin, glossy, just crispy papers. I prefer this kind of card stock. I'm not sure if that's what it's called. This kind of paper. It's got that newspaper rough feel to it, and I feel like the colors really pop on that. I like the way that the ink translates on that kind of paper. So I'll let you see some of the art style in here. It's actually really fun. I do like the art style a lot. So yeah, if you're into the DC like magic users, Dark Justice League, stuff like that, I think you're going to enjoy this book. And it's a Batman book, and it's a good story, and there's great art. So yeah, this was probably my least favorite issue of World's Finest, minus that one time travel circus issue, and Batman and Robin so far. But Batman versus Robin, we're only 2 issues in right now. It was a needed issue for sure. Provided some dialogue, provided some history, moved the story forward a little bit. But yeah, we'll see where it goes from there. And it had a pretty cool cliffhanger at the end too, so check it out. Another new Batman book that came out this week was Batman Incorporated #1 from Bryson. And we had one of the Tims on here. Which one was it? It wasn't Bruce, right? It's actually John Timms doing the art. The art's really cool in this book. So yeah, that was something that was a little bit of a pleasant surprise. That was one of the reasons why I got it. The other reason was I think there was some minor first appearances or something like that. I wanted to check it out. Again, it's got that same paper quality that Batman versus Robin had. It's got that newspaper grit feel on the paper, and I love that. Again, I think the art really pops off of those pages. I don't like glossy, thin pages, and I'm glad they're not going in that direction. But what are we doing here? So it's Batman Incorporated. It's Ghostmaker with all the different international Batman teaming up right now, and they're trying to solve some mysteries right now, specifically related to Lex Luthor and some of the labs and experiments he's been doing. And there's also this series of murders going on for very specific people, very relevant to Ghostmaker and Batman's history. And so we learn who those people are, and we're trying to piece together who that might be and why they're doing the things that they're doing and who they're targeting, of course, right? So, of course, we have a team of Batman. They're all alphas. They're all trying to fight for power. They all have this this whole dialogue about, I should be a leader. I should be a leader, whatever. Ghostmaker's really pissed off. He seems a little bit out of character versus how he was acting when we first met him in Tynan's run. So I didn't like that part necessarily. We got a little clown hunter in here, things like that. So overall, it's a pretty interesting book. I wasn't a big fan of the whole Batman International or Incorporated that we got introduced to between, Tynan's run and Chip's run. I wasn't a big fan of that whole, 4 or 5 issues in between that run. And that's kind of where we got reintroduced to Incorporated. But they did a decent job inside here. The art's killer, so it has that going for it at least. And then in the back, it also has a short story for Mark Silvestri's Batman and the Joker, the Deadly Duo. It's actually in the little backstory here. We get about 5 or 6 little pages back here, and you know, we don't learn a whole lot. You see a little bit of Harley, you see a little bit about Bullock, he's in here. Of course, we get a little Batman. There's some murders, Joker's involved, things like that. We get some pretty cool splash pages. So it's a pretty interesting little backstory in here as well, if you want to get a little preview of what's going on in that run. But overall, if you like Ghostmaker a lot, if you like murder mystery, if you like Batman Incorporated, like the different versions of Batman that are out there across the world, then pick this one up. You might enjoy that one. It's not a bad read so far. It's got me intrigued. I think I might be picking up the other ones. I'm not entirely sure. I'll let this one digest a little bit and see where it goes, see where my opinion goes from there. But let me know if you read it and let me know what you thought about it. All right, so that's actually it for the big 2. We're going to hop over into an independent book. We have Dark Horses Masquerade issue number 2. We have Kevin Smith on the writing on here. I'm sure there's some other stuff. There's Andy McElfresh is also co-writing this. And we have some art by John Spangelmeyer, I think it is. And I'm not a big fan of this book. So I read issue number 1. I didn't mean to have issue number 2 on my poll, I don't think. And issue number 2 came in and I said, well, let's try it out again. We'll see if my opinion of it changes. Maybe the story will change. Maybe we'll learn more. Maybe it won't be so annoying. But it was actually kind of annoying to read. It's basically a couple different stories happening at once right now. We basically have this one girl who's a social media star right now, and she's using that platform to actually attract just bad guys in general, like pedophiles and stuff like that. She was actually abused growing up, and so she's using that platform to attract those kind of people and taking revenge on them in a way, publicly. But then we also have this other element where we have this masked vigilante who takes it a little bit further and actually starts killing people, like Red Room style almost. And so there's all that going on. And so it's kind of like sitting in like a Gotham City kind of a thing, kind of an area where you can just find a bunch of lowlives very easily. It's very corrupt. The 1% is very corrupt in that area. So she's got plenty of victims to choose. But, you know, maybe a story like that would actually work. But it's actually the art style, too, that I just really can't stand, honestly. So I'll give you a little hint of what the art is. Again, when you read a whole lot of comic books, you start to hone in on what art styles you like the most and which art styles just don't really do it for you. And even if the story is halfway decent, sometimes you just can't get past the art. And that's kind of a shame. So the art's really not doing it for me. And on top of that, the story is just not something that I'm just too interested in knowing or reading about at the moment. So like, it's just not clicking on any level. It's got some action. It's got a lot of suspense. It's got, you know, some interesting points from time to time. But I think just the overall story, the direction, the art style is just not doing it for me. So Masquerade number 2, I can't really recommend the series right now. If you're reading it, it gets way better. Let me know for sure. But 2 issues in, not a big fan. All right, we're going to have a little bit of a retro review real quick. We have Bone Orchard Mythos 10,000 Black Feathers, issue number 1 from Lemire Sorrentino. And I believe we have Dave Stewart, one of my favorite colorists in comics right now. And so this one is actually a book that I didn't read. I just got it in at the shop, and so I just read it this week. So I'm going to throw it in here as well. I actually read, I think it was the Bone Orchard Mythos, that hardcover as well, that came out maybe a couple of months ago. I just read that one, and then I read this one after it to kind of get into that universe again. And so this book is very interesting. I like Jeff Lemire's take on just telling a story and how things are connected. Again, it's very much like some of the other books that this creative team has put together, in that it's all about this little element of horror. There's always some kind of a ghost from the past or something like that, something that's behind this character, brewing up in this character they're trying to escape from. And this is very much the same thing. We have this woman kind of coming back home to reset, right? Her adult life is not going according to plan. She remembers this old friend of hers. She goes back to their house. They're really close to the mom. They had some weird stuff happen when they were kids, and so she's reliving some of that trauma. And apparently some of that trauma is more real than she remembers or what she thinks, and she's having like these visions and things like that towards the end. Very, very cool art style. It's Andrea Sorrentino, so of course it's going to be awesome. Dave Stewart on the coloring is always amazing. I'll give you a little bit of a hint of what you can expect. I mean, you should probably know what you can expect at this point from this creative team, but it's more of the same awesomeness that we usually get. My only gripe about books like this is typically I really enjoy the beginning, middle, and then the very end always seems to be really ambiguous about what actually happens. It did that in the hardcover. It does that in this book too. it kind of leaves it up to the imagination a little bit. There is dialogue from time to time, but the dialogue is not very descriptive, you know, and I'm somebody that you kind of need to spoon feed me from time to time because I'm not great at like reading in on the panels. That's why some Step by Bloody Step was not a hard read because there's no dialogue at all. But at points, it was kind of hard to follow what the story was trying to tell me. And sometimes towards the end of these books, it's kind of the same thing. Primordial was like that with me as well. That's why I didn't really enjoy Primordial, I don't think, because I need that spoon feeding. And this book was a little bit like that as well, but they did a decent job of it throughout the book. Very intriguing, very horror-ish. Lots of suspense. You can put yourself in that atmosphere and that mood. So they do a really good job of painting the world and making you feel like you're in that situation. So there's that for sure. Again, the art's great. And I'll be picking up the rest of them for sure. What'd you guys think of this in general? And what'd you guys think of the hardcover that came out a couple of months ago? All right, we're going to be in Image the next couple of books. We have Love Everlasting from Tom King. Man, I love this art style on here as well from Elsa. And I'm just loving that art style. It's just very like 50s-ish or whatever the time period is. I don't know. I just like that style and the facial expression, just the way it works. You know, it's just so cool what they did in here. So basically, from what I understand, this is actually a set of stories that he put on his Substack, I believe, and they made it to print finally. And so I wasn't part of the Substack for that creator, but it's awesome that these books are coming to print. A lot of creators are doing that, specifically, you know, tying in. I know we had Donnie and Ryan's Vanish #1. Finally make it over. I know Brian K. Vaughan has Spectators. That's mostly coming out in a chapter format and whatever. But anyway, I digress. Love Everlasting is a pretty cool, interesting book. We basically have this woman who's going through these different lives right now. She's falling madly in love with whatever men are in her life at that moment. Something tragic happens at the very, very end. Some kind of weird twist. And it's almost like she's rebirthed and we're brought back to her like in teenage years. And she's doing the same story over and over again. One of the issues she actually remembers and actually starts realizing, hey, I've been kind of in this spot before. What the heck's going on? And she's noticing that the tragic ending in each one of her stories is this same guy. And so now she's kind of on the lookout for this guy now. So it's a pretty interesting concept. But now we're, 3 issues in, and we have the same problem we had in issue #1, and we found out what was going on in issue #2, I believe. So I'm just waiting for this book to kind of like progress forward. I think issue #2 was awesome. I loved what I saw in that one. We actually had a cool twist at the end. She was actually setting up her entire life for the moment for her killer to come at her, and she was more prepared for it. Kind of shit hit the fan either way. But in this issue, we get an interesting story about how she kind of got around all that and how she's trying to escape those previous lives. So that was pretty fun. The overall story inside was kind of neat. There was a cool little twist in the story, how it relates to the characters and how they're all related and whatnot. So that was pretty fun. I'm waiting for the story to progress to the next step. So far, we've had 3 issues where we have a young girl growing up, falling in love, and then we have this killer after her. Issue after issue after issue. So what's the next step is my question right now. Where do we go from here? So maybe we'll find out in the next issue because this issue doesn't quite end the same way as it does in issue #1 and #2. But hopefully it picks up where this one left off. Or it might just go into a whole new story, a whole new life. I don't know. I can't see them doing that, but it's Tom King, man. I don't know what he's going to do. So let me know what you think about this one down below. All right, last book we have from Image Comics, and this is just a great series, guys. You need to be reading this book. I'm telling you, it's Dual Powerbomb from Daniel Warren Johnson. We're on issue #5, 2 more issues to go based on the notes in the back of this book. So if you can't find issues 1, 2, 3, and 4, and maybe even 5 at this point, you got to pre-order the trade. I'm telling you, it's a great book. You need to pick this one up. So basically where we are right now is we're still in this demon tag team match, essentially in hell right now. We have this tag team that we're following. There's an interesting dynamic in this tag team. I'm not going to spoil it because there's some just amazing history in this tag team that we're following on here. And they're teaming up against other people with just as powerful motives to win as they have. We explore what those motives are from issue to issue, and the team that they're up against right now, their motive is actually just as strong as anybody else's. So that's another interesting thing about this book. You don't necessarily want your main heroes to win. It's kind of like Metal Society in a way. You didn't know if you wanted the robot to win because that robot had a shit life, and you didn't know if you wanted the human to win because that human went through all kinds of stuff as well, and you can relate to it. but both sides have a case is the point. So I really like that he puts that in the story. We get to learn a little bit about the people who are up against our main heroes, and we do in the first few pages of this issue. And we can really relate to that, which I think is great. So we're kind of in this like championship match right now, and our main heroes say, we want this to be a no disqualification, barbed wire, ladders, fall count, anywhere, death match kind of a thing. And it's just amazing. It's just everything's wrapped in barbed wire. We got tacks, we got tables, it's basically a TLC match, no holds barred, everything kind of a match. It's insane. Really cool artwork by Daniel Warren Johnson as well. He does movements just so well. He has this thing where he kind of like blurs things just the right way, just to kind of show you how kinetic everything is and where the action is heading. Just such a really cool comic in here, man. Just the art style is amazing. I'll give you a little hint of the art style on here. It's really gory when it needs to be as well. Lots of crap going on. This is kind of in the middle of the match right there. And again, man, it's just high flying. It's high action. If you're not into wrestling, that's perfectly fine. There's so much humanity in this book as well. It'll hit you in the feels either way. It is a little bit gory. In case you are wondering, it does get a little brutal from time to time. But if you've been watching wrestling a little bit, nothing in here is going to be extremely shocking to you, I would imagine. And I watched a little bit of wrestling when I was a kid, the Attitude Era, and man, it was just so cool to kind of see this kind of stuff again. We're really blessed with a lot of great wrestling comics right now, and this is no exception. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say about this book besides if you're not reading it, shame on you. You need to be picking up the trade at this point. We got a couple more issues to go. It is so cool, and he even has he has a couple notes in the back of this issue as well, talking about just these wild ideas to expand this universe a little bit. All for it, man. Let's go through. As long as you can keep the magic and everything, it's just such a cool book. Check this one out for sure. So guys, that's everything that I read this week, and those were my thoughts. I appreciate you watching the video. Go down below in the comments and let me know what your favorite books of the week were down there. And while you're down there, like, subscribe, share, hit that bell notification to be alerted of future videos. I appreciate you watching. See you in the comments.